Okay, guys. Now this is I thought I was right when I said in the last review that we were going to get back on track to the Gianni situation, but we're still focusing on Andrew Cunanan, but it's less of this murderous BS and more of where he got off track from being the vindictive liar to being the vicious vindictive liar. So this was really good. Let's talk about it.
And I'm like, come on through, Cookie. I want up on my soapbox. That's basically it. Let's talk about drag in all its forms. What, Cookie?
Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is my review for the assassination of Gianni Versace, and this is episode 6 of the actual miniseries. So we're in 1996 in La Jolla, California. This is about a year before the murders actually began, before he started this murderous spree. And this episode, like I said, it really covered Andrew's downslide from really, I mean, at one point he was just a liar and a manipulator and that kind of thing, and he was a whore and some other things, but he had a grasp on reality. He just was a vicious liar. He literally couldn't stop himself from lying. He's a habitual liar, flat out. The lie is always first. The truth is somewhere way, way in there. But then at a point, he lost grasp of reality. And that's what we covered in this episode. Really, really good. Let's talk about this. Let me also say this. In this episode, we watched, there's people who I've actually talked to throughout the years, you know, younger people than myself. I don't want to say I mentored them, but people who I've actually spoken with about real life things. And one thing that I've always said is be very careful how you handle people when it comes to matters of the heart. Be very careful because you don't know what you're dealing with when you're dealing with matters of the heart. You may tap into something in that person that you never thought you were tapping into. And with that, let me begin. Okay. So, David. Let's talk about David. Andrew really was in love with David. He had fallen in love with David because when we found they actually did. See, because I was wondering, had they actually had sex? Had they ever had sex, or was he just delusional? No, they actually did share a night. There was one night they shared of sex and the whole 9 yards, and it was kind of like I think it was supposed to be, in David's mind, it was like a one-night stand kind of thing, but then it was like, And what I found out with David, as I'm watching this, David was out for the come-up, too. David was from a small town people were his family. He grew up with not really less than, but it was a modest life, basically. And he wanted more. And he was willing to use basically what he had to get what he wanted, kind of. Okay? This is what I gathered from him. So, as I'm watching this, I won't say nobody deserves to be killed the way he was killed. He was killed in cold blood. But I will say this. Some of it you brought on yourself. It's cold. It's hard. You know, it's kind of stern of me saying, but it is what it is. Okay, so let's just go here. At this point, Andrew is living with a millionaire, okay, named Norman. Norman is a man of a certain age, gay man, whose lover had actually died of HIV and AIDS complications. Um, and he was looking for basically a new young thing. Okay. That new young thing just basically ended up being Andrew. Now, at this point, Andrew is living the life. Do you understand me? He is totally kept, but Andrew's never satisfied. The problem with Andrew is that Andrew is jealous. See, Andrew wasn't happy being this kept sissy. He wasn't good with that. He basically wanted to be Norman. He doesn't want to be. I mean, he had it all figured out how to manipulate these people and get up into their world. And I don't even think he was really all that sharp. Like when you think gigolos and playboys, they're usually real sharp. I don't get that he was sharp. Even when I seen the real pictures of him, I'm like, girl, I can't imagine why anybody would spend their money on you. But okay. I mean, I can't imagine spending my money on nobody. But, I mean, some people we've seen, you'd be like, well, okay, I understand. No, I don't get it. But okay. But he was kept. He had it going on. Totally going on. Beautiful home. Beautiful. Just the treatment was just impeccable. He was an old disrespectful son of a bitch, is what he was. He has all this going on. At this time, he knew David and he knew Jeff. He was already in love with David. David lived in Minneapolis. He sent for David, flew David on out there to California for the party. They actually had met in San Francisco. That's where they had their tryst, was in San Francisco. He met him there. David was on a vacation or whatever. He got him, flew him in to California. Jeff was already a friend of Andrew's. Jeff didn't know David at the time. He did all this mess, had Jeff put on these different clothes and these different shoes, because Jeff was just a regular smuggler guy, remember? And you're bringing all these people in. Norman has all his friends there, which are all very rich, very rich upper class folk. And they're all of like this certain age. And then you got this young boy. He's having this big old birthday party for him. He even bought a gift for himself from Jeff. He's trying to impress David. So he wanted, this is my best friend, Jeff. And look at this thing. He bought me this, that thing, and the other, all of this kind of carrying on. It was just very childish and very immature, but whatever. Jeff was like, I don't know about all this dressing me up and the phony gift and all this. If he's your friend and you think he's the one and all of that, then what's the problem? You know what I mean? It should be fine. Well, baby, let me tell you this. And when I say disrespectful, so you got Norman. Norman has a best friend. The best friend sees the forest through the trees. He doesn't like Andrew. He could see all the bullshit with Andrew. They had words, and he told him, he's like, you're not good enough for Norman. You shouldn't be here. You're full of shit, and I see you. I see you, bitch. And you'll never match who his ex-lover was. You're nobody. You're a nobody, bitch. Is basically what he told me. I said, girl, good thing you met him when you did, because if you hadn't, you'd be one dead bitch. But, he hadn't gotten on his murderous rampage just yet. So they were having all this, and I just want to say how disrespectful that Andrew was. You got all this going on. You're living in this house with this man. This man is keeping you. You got Jeff up in here, and then you done flew in with this man's money now. You done flew this man that you in love with in to come there, stay in, to be all in his house right up in his face. And all of this kind of carrying on. Then during the party, we see Lee Miglin. Lee Miglin is actually a friend of Norman's who was at the party, you went after you messed around with Norman. You had already been fucking around with Lee Miglin. Because Lee Miglin was all enamored with him, like, oh, I just had to see you, and this, that, and the other. And girl, you were a mess. You were a mess, Miss Andrew Cunanan, and honey, you was an old hot pussy mess, honey. I said, oh, this is something else, honey. Just messy. Messy, messy queen. I said, okay. So anyway, the thing that we picked up on right away, Jeff and David, when they met, there was an instant attraction. And Andrew caught it just like we did. He caught it right away. He caught it. And I said, oh, that is a mess. That is a mess right there. Shortly after the party, I guess it's months or so after the party, Norman and Andrew get into it. Andrew done really got the feeling himself, done gave Norman a list of demands. If we're going to continue on with this relationship, I need this, and this. I need this specific type of car. I want to be your sole heir on your will and all of this. I mean, all of the stuff that he told him, no, I'm not doing any of that. No. I'll continue to keep you. It just is what it is, but I'm not going to agree to all of this. You need to go back to school. I got you from school. You need to go back to school. You need to make something of yourself. Stop. He said, what is it about you where you think that work is beneath you? And you just think that things should just be given to you. You don't want to work for anything. That's a child because you done went and got you a whore. She ain't nothing but a whore. She's crazy. And you do yourself a favor to get away from her. And he did. He told her, because you've seen some of her angry tendencies. She broke the hell out of this glass table and all that. And he's like, girl, bye. She was gone and that was it. And he had nothing else to do with her. Sent Andrew about his business. Right after that is when the stuff started. Jeff and Andrew got into it. The postcard ended up being sent. See, because that's the thing with Andrew. When Andrew becomes hurt, Andrew starts hurting other people. Is what happened. He said that postcard and outed Jeff to his father and all that. Andrew yanked his ass up and bammed him into the wall and told him, they had their few little words and whatever. And they go back and forth and they have this little conversation about David because Jeff ends up telling Andrew that he's moving to Minneapolis. He done found himself a job in Minneapolis. And he's like, it don't have nothing to do with David. It don't have nothing to do with David. You're lying. So again, then I get to Jeff and I say, Jeff, now I can't 100% feel sorry for you either. You and David both, y'all were supposedly his friends. And y'all pulled a quick stunt. Y'all met each other through him. You knew, Jeff, that he was in love with David. And as soon as you met David, you made a play for him right in front of his face. We told him, you can sleep, you could stay at my place on my couch. I said, oh. Disrespectful. I don't give a damn what you say. Yeah, maybe they were made for each other, but that was disrespectful. The timing of it and all that, they were disrespectful. Y'all made a fool out of him. But in the end, he killed both of y'all's ass. And I said, and the thing is, it was bad. The way that it was done was terrible. What he should have been able to do as a decent human being was just to leave them both alone because they didn't deserve any friendship that he was trying to give to them. But he murdered them. So that's kind of bad. But again, you can't say at the end of the day that they didn't bring some of that on themselves. You all put the spotlight on yourself. Now you're on stage. You just happen to be on stage with a goddamn serial killer. Again, when it comes to matters of the heart, you better very well watch what you're doing and watch who you're dealing with because you don't know what you may unleash from these people. And I have been saying that for years, and I'll be saying it until I ain't on the planet no more. When it comes to matters of the heart, you need to watch yourself, because you have no idea what you are unleashing in these people and when it will come back to bite you in your ass. Y'all remember that. Take note of that. And I done seen, this is really extreme, but I've seen things happen throughout my life that says this is true. One more time. When it comes to matters of the heart, be very careful who you're dealing with, because you may unleash some things in these people that you don't want to deal with. Anyway, after all of that went on, David continued to accept gifts and trinkets and things from Andrew, instead of them just like cutting them off and not being able. Andrew called him. He accepted gifts. He flew him out from Minneapolis back to California. This was after Jeff had left. It was in Minneapolis, and they was down there dating and carrying on. Flew him out there, rented this penthouse and a car and all this mess, spent like almost $3,000 on a weekend. Took him and bought him designer suit and this, that thing, and the other. And at one point, David's conscience actually kicked in, and he did tell him, I'm not the one. I know you think I'm the one for you. I'm not. I'm not the one. We had one good night, but I'm not the one for you. And he saw how he was basically trying to control him and trying to turn him into something else. He was trying to dress him up basically to be like him. And he was like, you were too far. He was too far in. He was too far in at that point. You had accepted too much. You had accepted way too many gifts. And he said, why did you even come out here? And he told him, because I haven't traveled much. This, that, and the other. Guilty. You had put yourself on the chopping block at that point with Psycho Kinda over here. I said, Then he said, let's just talk. Let's forget all of this stuff and all this money stuff. Let's just talk. So he went and he started talking. He said, what about your parents? He went to trying to tell him a story about his parents and all that. Baby, he couldn't even get through the story without, he just can't stop lying. And you just sitting there looking at him. And Jeff had already told him everything about Andrew, so he knew it was all a lie. I said, Lord have mercy. I said, okay. And Jeff didn't know everything, but he knew that was a lie. He knew all that was a lie. He knew he was a goddamn gigolo and all of that. I said, Lord have mercy. So once that was over, David had went on home. That's when the downward spiral started. He ended up messing with drugs. He was already messing with crystal meth and different things, but he had went into something very much stronger, and he really was like on a trip. And you could see him go down. He basically like he was becoming like a crackhead or a crystal meth head, and he was like all messed up. You could see his money depleting. Him and Norman wasn't fooling with him too much anymore. He actually came back to the house one night. Norman called the cops to have him removed. He was all whacked out, all just looking all greasy and all drugged out. He was tore up. And in this time is when he had fixated himself on Gianni Versace. It was all in his mind. He had this whole thing in his mind about Gianni Versace. He had studied, because that's what he did. He would study people. He would study them, and then he would go after him. This is what he did. He had did that to Gianni. Only problem is you couldn't really get into Gianni because Gianni didn't have that space in his life. Gianni had Antonio. This is what I'm saying so far. Gianni already had Antonio. He has Donatella. He has family. And this was part of the thing. Like he was saying, who do you think you are that you're better than me? He was going, it was like this dream sequence on one of his high. He was on one of his high binges. And he was saying, he was going through his truth about, he's like, I'm nice. I give people everything that I have, but I'm not getting back from them what I want. Because that's again, you trying to buy people. And he's like, and what makes you so much better, Mr. Gianni Versace? You think you're better than me? What makes you better? And Gianni said, the difference between you and I is I'm loved. You know, he's like, you got famous. He went through all the things he was jealous of Gianni about. And then Gianni said, I'm loved, which was the thing overall. You're loved, so I must destroy you, is what I got from that. I said, jealous. Jealous and vindictive and just hateful. He's a demon. He was a demon. And that, I said, wow. I said, so this is really all in his mind. It don't have nothing to do with Gianni Versace. Gianni Versace didn't do anything to Andrew Cunanan. He had fixated on him. He had studied him. And instead of going and trying to be in love with him, there was no availability for you to get in that spot. So your other option is to destroy him. And that's what we know of Andrew Cunanan. She's crazy as cat crap. And vicious. And then we see how he's all hopped up on drugs. He's all messed up. Got nowhere else to go. And we finally see his real mother. And when we seen her, we figured out exactly why he's as fucked up as he is. Because his mammy is delusional. She is jealous-hearted. And she's just raggedy. Very much hateful and raggedy. Now, I think she didn't have that killing spirit that he had. But he's very much a carbon copy of his mother. She's in there and she's bathing him. And she said, why don't you smell like yourself? This, that, and the other. She asked him about. He didn't come out and tell her he was gay, but she got it when he told her, I'm never going to have kids. And she's like, what do you mean you're not going to have kids? That's ridiculous. Everybody has kids. If you don't have kids, then what good is your life? I said, oh, why does she say that, honey? And she smelled him. She said, you don't smell like yourself. She's trying to wash. I said, girl, because he's a motherfucking crackhead, honey. You can wash and wash and wash, honey. It don't make no difference. He's all hopped up and had up, honey, and going through some type of withdrawal. He all messed up and ain't got no more money. He's messed up. He coming down, honey. I said, Lord have mercy. And she was telling him this story about a little boy he went to school with who the parents had money. They had nothing. You can see she didn't live good. She's a raggedy place. And she was saying how, oh, yes, and I told her, because her son, he went to school, went to college, and he hasn't done anything with his life. He gets in trouble, this, that, and the other. And I told her about all the places that you go and this, that, and the other, and how you're going around designing clothes at the theaters with Mr. Gianni Versace and this, that, all those lies that he has told, okay? And she said, you should have seen her face. She was so jealous. I said, he's just like you. He was a carbon copy of his mother, delusional, jealous, and hateful. I said, apple don't fall too far from the tree, honey. If you find a nasty, delusional child, 9 times out of 10, follow at home somebody nasty and delusional, go open up the door, honey. 9 times out of 10. Don't happen all the time, but sometimes it does. In this case, he's a carbon copy of his crazy-ass mammy. And on that, I'm going to end this, and I will see you guys next week. This was really a good episode. It wasn't too creepy like some of the last couple, but it was really good and informative, and I really enjoyed it. All right, you guys, I will talk to you soon. Bye.